I'm Adeyeye Olorunfemi, a writer, a social crusader, an activist, and a lover of humanity, humanitarian. Oh yes, of course. yes, I am a student. I learn every day. I study every day. I came from a Christian family with a very good prayer background. Spiritual background, where we pray for everything. Primary school, just like every other person. Secondary school, and presently I'm a student of the University of Lagos, who is presently, as we all know, under political victimization. And that's just it. So what happened was there was a protest where students agitated for better welfare conditions from the university management at that time. And we were not attended to by the management for 3 good days of protesting, of coming out to protest against this. So instead of that, there were repressive forces that were meted against students. So after that, the school was shut down, and for 2 weeks we were at home. After that, I thought, okay, after 2 weeks, let us come back on campus and these conditions of living and learning would have improved. But the reverse was the case. In fact, it was even with more bullying acts and policies of coming to school, writing the exam next week. Electricity will be available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., signing of indemnity form and reabsorption oath, as if everyone was rusticated at the beginning. So all those things, I saw it as being not too ideal, because in a society where we are training people, in a university where you train people to be able to stand up against the ills of the society and speak against those things, we should encourage dissent. We should encourage people having dissenting views against whenever we see injustice, we should be able to speak against it. And so that was what really happened. And after that time, I noticed the whole thing. I wrote an article to that effect. But instead of getting an intellectual engagement from the management, I was repressed in a way. Very, very silly things like that would amount to cover up for their nefarious activities. And so all those things culminated into what brought about the article I wrote. And after that, the Dean of Student Affairs sent me a message on Facebook, and I read it. I told him, in fact, he shared the post, and I thanked him for sharing it. Yes, thank you for sharing the truth. And he said, you're welcome. And that was just the last, till he blocked me on Facebook. So one thing led to the other, and I was called, I was summoned to a panel. Appearing at that panel, they were expecting these conventional students who would come and start begging, Daddy, let's look for a way to do this. But I got there and I explained everything that happened and how students' rights should not be taken for granted at all levels, either in school or by government. It must not be taken for granted, because we happen to be the faculty of any nation, which is the brain box of any nation. And from there, one thing led to another. And on the 29th of July, I got a letter of rustication, which in fact made the whole thing very interesting. Very interesting. Because judging by what I said at the panel, I don't think I should get any letter of rustication, because at the panel, it got to an extent that Yoruba language later became the official language. It was not like Shibomo Yoruba lo de pera Shudakamabagbalagba and all that. So that was how the whole thing happened. So judging by what I said at the panel, I knew nothing would happen. Because judging by what I said and their recommendations, if the recommendations were submitted to the higher panel, as they've said, the investigative panel. But from sources, I got to realize that they said, we heard that when my name was mentioned to mete out punishment, they never voted. It was not a vote. Normally in the Senate, you vote. Do you want to rusticate Adeyeye Olorunfemi? If you want, say yay, say nay. But they never voted. They just like, this one, he's out of the game. So that was just it. Of course, Going back to the University of Lagos is premised on several factors, I would say. And just 2 weeks ago, the chief security officer of the University of Lagos was even trying to cajole that when in a phone conversation, that you're coming back to our school, you have nowhere you are going to and all that. So it's premised on different conditions that we might be let out later. But going back to the University of Lagos, it will be the sweetest thing and very important as anything that you can. No, it is something as sure as death that going back to the University of Lagos will be a time to continue the movement for the liberation of the campus, especially that of the students, because right now, even there's a curfew presently at the University of Lagos, a 10 p.m. curfew where students don't go out anymore. Students are not allowed into the halls of residence as early as 10 p.m. Shops have been locked, cabs are not allowed to move anymore. So these things are very, very barbaric. Students were also, students who have attended another school, they were not allowed to be voted for in an election. So all these things are just little drops of their efforts to cow dissidents on that campus. Presently, I'm into different programs that lead to, but a man is not really defined by the number of certificates, because if that's the issue, Nigeria should be the best place to be. We know of professors who, in fact, people who have been professors for 12 years, 14 years. We have professors scattered everywhere. I was at Obafemi Awolowo University sometime in July to deliver a paper. And I got to realize that 297 inaugural lectures, yes, 297 inaugural lectures have been delivered on that campus. What does that imply? It implies that 297 persons have been made professors on that campus. Just imagine in a small town where you have just a professor, there should be a commensurate development to that academic prowess. But just churning out from a university, you have 297 professors. Then look at what the nation should look like. We have people with 5 master's degree, and in fact, we are just being made for the service industry, which should change. That ideology of going to school to serve one boss, going to school to serve one person somewhere. That ideology should change. Africans should begin to see ourselves as being able to project better ideas to the world. An African is not thinking about going to space. An African is not thinking about developing anything. He's just thinking about going to school to become a mechanical engineer so that you can work in one oil and gas company. As if in that oil and gas company, it's like your secondary school where the SS3 students will have to leave before the SS2 would take over their class. It's not like that. We should begin to see things differently. And that is why a law students, or let me put it this way, a law graduate could drop his or her degree for makeup artistry in Nigeria today. Because people are no longer getting this thing. There's no motivation anymore. In fact, doctors, as we used to have, we know doctors, they fall in the middle class. But now we have doctors protesting. You know, medicine and surgery before, it sounds like a very good course. Like, wow, your dad wants you to study medicine and surgery because you want to be a doctor. But now, doctors are protesting because they have not been paid backlog of salaries. So it's beyond certificates. It's high time we got educated and not certificated. Because at the time on Naira Land, people were like, okay, what do you expect from this guy? Anyone who is already on the floor should not be afraid of falling. That's what it is. But I'm not on the floor. I'm very, very high. I'm very proud. Please stop that. No, seriously, there is smoke everywhere in Nigeria. Environmental pollution. So, but seriously, if I smoke, and what I smoke is the fish in shawarma, the sausage. That's what I smoke. Come on, that. That's very funny. No, rejection from family, friends. I've had those hours, and seriously, it's also in the book I'm about to publish, Kirikirikracy, where the darkest hours, where family, friend, they don't even want to get themselves associated with you. But talking about the human part, I think Facebook would answer that, which shows that I'm single. I'm single on Facebook.
But in reality,
I'm single. The rot in the system transcends a particular section of that rot, either in UNILAG or in Kirikiri. Kirikiri is just a place that we all know. The medium prison, medium security prison, and the maximum security is just a place we know. But what's happening in UNILAG today is more of a slave camp. It's almost the same thing. What's happening in Kirikiri is just because the movement is restricted. But in UNILAG, movement also has just been restricted also. 10 p.m. curfew. So 10 p.m. curfew, students don't move anymore, cabs don't move, shops have been locked as early as 10 p.m. The whole social, even academic activities have just been grounded on that campus. So Kirikirikracy, the prison memoir, would be talking about the rot in the system, having a background from what the society has turned so many people into, and how we can correct that with the very good ideas. Everywhere you hear youth must take over, youth must arise, youth must stand. Yes, that's correct. But I think youth must, the youths must unite under the correct ideas, because you can just unite. That's one thing. But another thing is uniting under the correct ideas. So Kirikirikracy would show different things that, in fact, will be very funny, especially how I lost my very special shirt, my constituted Adeyeye shirt, to a prisoner. In fact, a deadly inmate, a ferocious looking guy. In fact, the chest is a direct opposite of Adeyeye's his chest. In fact, I could not protest in prison. I could not protest. I gave it to him. I thought I had confidence. But when you hear, oh yeah, bring that in, and you're like, okay, now be this. They take out. So these are different other stories. Or what is it how I slept in a brothel at the time because I wanted to appear at a court sitting as early as possible in Ikoyi. Very, very interesting issues will be discussed. Yes, in my meeting with the Dawn of Literature, our own WS, wordsmith, Professor Wale Shoyinka, he agreed to put up the foreword to the book, and seriously, that's just so huge for me, that having a WS on my project is just like having someone you so much idolize, meeting such a person physically, and he's even part of a project you want to do. It's just very huge. And also I have a very good friend, a brother, Oyenkanwelwe, Don, a professor who teaches African literature. So he's also in the project. Emmanuel Ibehayawu is also the editor, who is an award-winning prose writer. We have different PR guys on it. We have different social media influencers pushing the whole project. So we have very, very good hands in this book that would hit the public space very soon. Yes, one thing I would say is this: we must remain fervid in the struggle. We must remain tenacious. There is no struggle that is personal. Let me put it that way. There's no personal struggle. It's a struggle we've all found ourselves in. As Africans, we should understand that it's this time we have for us to stand against oppression at all forms. We are in this mess because some people did not speak. And that is what we should understand, that when you allow the oppressor to continue oppressing, you are not just a victim of that oppression, you are also an accomplice by not speaking against it. When people are victimized in schools, they should speak up. You don't die in silence. You don't die in silence. You speak against this and make yourself better in the course of the struggle.